The morning sun cast long shadows across Windsor Castle as Queen Elizabeth II awakened on April 21st, 2021. For the first time in over 7 decades, she would celebrate her birthday without the steady presence of Prince Philip by her side. The Duke of Edinburgh had passed away just 9 days earlier, leaving behind a silence that seemed to echo through the ancient stone corridors of the castle. Her Majesty's personal dresser, Angela Kelly, entered the Queen's private chambers carrying the carefully selected outfit for the day. The monarch had chosen to wear a vibrant green coat dress with matching hat, a deliberate choice that spoke of resilience and continuity despite her recent loss. The bright color seemed to push back against the shadow of grief that had settled over the royal household. As the Queen prepared for what would be one of the most subdued birthday celebrations of her reign, she reflected on the 73 years she had shared with Philip. Their marriage had been a cornerstone of her life, providing stability through the countless challenges of ruling a modern monarchy. Now, at 95, she faced the prospect of continuing alone, something that would have seemed unthinkable just weeks before. The staff at Windsor Castle moved with quiet efficiency, understanding the delicate balance required on this particular morning. They had witnessed the Queen's strength in the days following Philip's funeral, but today carried its own unique weight. Birthday celebrations had always been family affairs, filled with laughter and the Duke's trademark humor. His absence would be felt in every planned moment. In the castle's private dining room, a small birthday cake sat waiting. It was nothing like the elaborate celebrations of previous years. No state banquets, no receiving lines of dignitaries, no crowds of well-wishers gathering outside palace gates. The pandemic had already changed the nature of royal celebrations, but grief had transformed this day into something entirely different. The Queen's private secretary reviewed the day's schedule, which had been carefully crafted to honor both her birthday and her need for quiet reflection. There would be no public appearances, no official photographs beyond those taken privately. The royal family had agreed that this birthday should be marked with dignity and restraint, allowing the Queen's space to grieve while still acknowledging the significance of the day. Messages of support had been pouring in from around the world. Commonwealth leaders, foreign dignitaries, and ordinary citizens had all sent their regards, many acknowledging both the celebration and the recent loss. The Queen would spend time reading these personal notes, finding comfort in the outpouring of love and support from people she had served for nearly 7 decades. The Duke's study remained exactly as he had left it, his reading glasses still folded on the desk beside a half-finished book about naval history. The Queen had made clear that nothing was to be disturbed. These personal spaces had become sacred, holding memories of their shared life together. Sometimes she would simply sit in his favorite chair, surrounded by his collections and photographs from their travels around the world. Prince Charles had arrived the evening before, wanting to ensure his mother wouldn't spend her birthday entirely alone. The future king understood the weight of the moment, knowing that this day marked not just another year in his mother's remarkable life, but also the beginning of a new chapter without his father's guidance and support. The Queen's beloved corgis seemed to sense the somber mood of the household. They stayed close to their mistress, providing the kind of uncomplicated companionship that had always brought her comfort. These loyal animals had been constants throughout her reign, offering simple joy in moments when the weight of the crown felt heaviest. As the morning progressed, the Queen maintained her usual routine with characteristic determination. She reviewed state papers, approved official documents, and conducted the necessary business of the monarchy. This dedication to duty, even on her birthday amid personal grief, exemplified the sense of service that had defined her entire reign. The gardens of Windsor Castle bloomed with spring flowers, nature providing its own birthday celebration. The Queen had always found solace in these grounds, where she and Philip had walked countless times over the years. Today, these familiar paths would offer both comfort and poignant reminders of happier times when they explored them together, planning improvements and discussing the future of the estate they both loved. The Queen's private apartments at Windsor Castle held decades of memories within their walls. Photographs line the mantelpieces and side tables, capturing moments from a lifetime of service and family celebrations. Many featured Prince Philip, his familiar figure now serving as both comfort and reminder of the profound change her life had undergone in such a short time. Princess Anne had telephoned early in the morning, her voice carrying the same practical tone that had always characterized the royal family's approach to difficult situations. She spoke about the day ahead, checking on her mother's well-being while avoiding the kind of sentiment that would only make the morning more difficult. The Queen appreciated this approach, preferring action over empty words during times of sorrow. In the castle's kitchen, the chef prepared a simple lunch featuring some of the Queen's favorite dishes. There would be no elaborate feast today, just familiar comfort foods that had sustained her through countless challenges over the years. The staff understood that sometimes the smallest gestures carried the most meaning, especially when grief made even simple pleasures feel complicated. The Queen spent time in her private sitting room, sorting through letters and photographs that Philip had left behind. Among his papers, she discovered notes he had written about future plans they had discussed, gardens they wanted to visit, and books they had planned to read together. These glimpses into a future that would never come brought both pain and a strange comfort, evidence of how fully they had lived their shared life. Her Majesty's dresser brought tea on the finest china, served exactly as it had been every day for years. These rituals of daily life continued unchanged, providing structure and normalcy when everything else felt uncertain. The Queen had always found strength in routine, and today these familiar patterns offered anchor points in a sea of emotion. Prince William had sent a personal message, sharing memories of his grandfather and expressing his love for his grandmother on this special day. The future king's words reflected the close bond that had developed between them over the years, particularly as he had taken on more royal responsibilities. His message carried hope for the future while honoring the past that had shaped their family. The Queen reviewed correspondence from her private secretaries, who had worked throughout the morning to ensure that essential business continued despite the personal significance of the day. Papers requiring royal assent, diplomatic communications, and administrative decisions all demanded attention. This commitment to duty, even during personal difficulty, demonstrated the unwavering dedication that had defined her entire reign. Outside the castle walls, journalists and photographers maintained a respectful distance, understanding that this birthday called for privacy rather than public celebration. The world watched with sympathy and admiration as the monarch navigated this difficult milestone with the same grace and dignity she had shown throughout her remarkable life. The Queen's handbag sat beside her chair, containing the small personal items that had traveled with her for decades. Among them was a photograph of Philip from their early marriage, young and handsome in his naval uniform. These private mementos offered comfort during quiet moments, connecting her to happier times when a future stretched endlessly before them. Members of the royal household staff who had served the Queen for many years found themselves moved by her strength and composure. They had witnessed her through countless challenges over the decades, but this particular trial seemed to test her in ways that state crises and family difficulties never had. Yet she continued to carry herself with the same dignity that had made her beloved around the world. The afternoon brought a video call with Prince Harry from California, a conversation that bridged the physical distance between them during this emotional time. Despite recent family tensions, the shared love for Prince Philip and concern for the Queen created a moment of connection that transcended other difficulties. These family bonds remained strong, even when circumstances made relationships complicated. As evening approached, the Queen prepared for a quiet dinner with Prince Charles, who had remained at the castle to ensure she wouldn't spend her birthday entirely alone. Their conversation would inevitably turn to memories of Philip, but also to the future of the monarchy and the responsibilities that lay ahead. This balance between honoring the past and planning for the future exemplified the royal family's approach to times of transition. The castle's ancient stones seemed to hold the weight of history, having witnessed centuries of royal celebrations, sorrows, and ceremonies. Tonight, they would shelter a queen who had given her life to service, now facing the future with the same courage that had carried her through nearly 7 decades on the throne. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of St. George's Chapel, where just days before the Queen had said her final goodbye to Prince Philip. The chapel remained a place of both sorrow and sanctuary, its ancient stones holding centuries of royal history. Today, she would visit privately, finding solace in the sacred space where their love story had reached its earthly conclusion. Walking slowly through the chapel's nave, the Queen paused at the spot where Philip's coffin had rested during the funeral service. The memories of that day remained vivid and painful, yet she drew strength from remembering how beautifully his life had been honored. The music, the prayers, and the quiet dignity of the service had provided the farewell he deserved, even under the restrictions imposed by the pandemic. Her private chaplain had prepared a special prayer for her birthday, acknowledging both the celebration and the grief that intertwined on this day. The Queen found comfort in these spiritual moments, drawing on faith that had sustained her throughout her reign. Prayer had always been a source of strength during difficult times, offering peace when the burdens of the crown felt overwhelming. Back in her private apartments, the Queen discovered a gift that Prince Philip had arranged to be given to her on this birthday. Her staff had carefully kept the secret, following his instructions to present it only on April 21st. Inside the elegant wrapping was a book of photographs from their travels together, personally compiled by the Duke with handwritten notes describing his favorite memories from each location. The gesture was so typically Philip, thoughtful and practical while also deeply personal. His notes beside each photograph brought his voice back to life, describing moments they had shared in far corners of the Commonwealth and during state visits around the world. These memories captured not just historical moments, but the private joy they had found in their shared adventures. Prince Edward and Sophie arrived for afternoon tea, bringing with them their children, who added a welcome note of youthful energy to the quiet day. The Queen had always found particular joy in her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, whose innocence and enthusiasm provided relief from the weight of royal responsibilities. Today, their presence offered a glimpse of the future and the continuation of the family line. The children presented their grandmother with handmade birthday cards, decorated with drawings and messages that brought the first genuine smiles of the day. These simple offerings, created with love and excitement, meant more than any elaborate gift could. The Queen treasured these personal touches, keeping such mementos in special boxes that held decades of similar treasures from family members. As the afternoon progressed, the Queen spent time in her private study, reviewing documents related to Prince Philip's estate and the various charitable organizations he had supported throughout his life. His legacy extended far beyond their personal relationship to encompass decades of public service and dedication to causes he held dear. Ensuring the continuation of his work provided a sense of purpose during these difficult days. The Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme, which he had founded to encourage young people to challenge themselves and serve their communities, received particular attention. The Queen was determined that this program would continue to thrive as a living memorial to Philip's belief in the potential of young people. Thousands of participants around the world had benefited from his vision, and she wanted to ensure that legacy would endure. Messages continued to arrive throughout the day from world leaders, Commonwealth governors, and ordinary citizens whose lives had been touched by the royal couple's years of service. Each message was carefully read and acknowledged, providing evidence of the respect and affection the Queen had earned through her decades of dedication to duty and service to others. The Queen's racing manager called to discuss upcoming events at Royal Ascot, one of her greatest passions outside her official duties. Horse racing had provided joy and excitement throughout her life, and Philip had shared her enthusiasm for the sport. Planning for the racing season ahead offered a welcome distraction and something positive to anticipate in the months to come. Her Majesty's personal photographer was granted permission to take a few informal portraits in the castle gardens, images that would be released to mark her birthday, while respecting the subdued nature of the celebration. These photographs would show the world a queen who remained dignified and strong despite her recent loss, continuing to serve her people even in her time of personal grief. The evening brought telephone calls from other Commonwealth realms, where the Queen served as head of state. Prime ministers and governors-general offered birthday wishes while also expressing their condolences for Prince Philip's passing. These conversations reinforced the global nature of her role and the widespread affection felt for both her and the late Duke throughout the Commonwealth family. The evening approached with a gentleness that seemed to honor both celebration and remembrance. The Queen had changed into a more comfortable dress for dinner, choosing one of the simpler outfits she preferred for family gatherings. Tonight would be intimate, just herself and Prince Charles sharing memories and looking toward the uncertain future that lay ahead for the monarchy. In a private dining room, candles flickered on a table set for two. The staff had prepared dinner using recipes from the royal kitchens that had been favorites of both the Queen and Prince Philip over the years. These familiar dishes carried the comfort of tradition while serving as gentle reminders of happier times, when the Duke would regale dinner companions with stories from his naval service or observations about the day's events. Prince Charles spoke quietly with his mother about the memorial service being planned to honor his father's life once pandemic restrictions allowed for larger gatherings. The funeral had been necessarily small, but the family wanted to ensure that the Duke's extraordinary life of service would be properly celebrated when the time was right. These plans provided a focus for their shared grief, while honoring Philip's remarkable contributions. The Queen shared stories about the early years of her marriage, when she and Philip had lived relatively simple lives in Malta while he continued his naval career. Those had been some of their happiest times, when royal duties were lighter and they could enjoy a semblance of normal married life. Charles listened with fascination to these glimpses of his parents as young people, deeply in love and planning their future together. After dinner, they moved to the Queen's private sitting room, where a small fire crackled in the fireplace. The room was filled with personal photographs and mementos collected over decades of family life. Many featured Prince Philip in various stages of their life together, from their engagement photos to recent family gatherings. Each image told part of the story of their remarkable partnership. The Queen opened the book of photographs that Philip had left for her birthday, sharing some of his handwritten memories with her son. His words brought both laughter and tears as they recalled the adventures and challenges they had faced together in representing Britain around the world. These private moments revealed the man behind the public figure, showing his wit, wisdom, and deep love for his family. Charles presented his mother with a personal gift he had commissioned, a specially bound collection of letters and documents from Prince Philip's naval career. The project had taken months to complete, involving careful research through naval archives and consultation with Philip's former colleagues. The gift honored the Duke's service while preserving these important historical documents for future generations. As the evening continued, they discussed the challenges facing the monarchy in the years ahead. The Queen, despite her grief, remained focused on ensuring the institution's survival and relevance for future generations. She spoke about the importance of adapting to changing times while maintaining the core values that had sustained the monarchy through centuries of social and political change. The conversation turned to the younger members of the royal family and their roles in the monarchy's future. Prince William and Catherine were taking on increasing responsibilities, while the Queen's other grandchildren were finding their own ways to serve the nation. These discussions about succession and continuity provided comfort, showing that the work she and Philip had begun together would continue long after they were gone. Late in the evening, the Queen spent time alone in Philip's study, surrounded by his books and personal belongings. She read from one of his favorite volumes of poetry, finding solace in words that had brought him comfort over the years. These quiet moments of connection with his memory had become part of her daily routine, providing a sense of his continued presence in her life. The castle settled into nighttime quiet, its ancient walls holding the weight of another significant day in royal history. Staff members who had served the Queen for decades reflected on her remarkable strength and grace under pressure. They had witnessed her navigate constitutional crises, family difficulties, and national tragedies, but her composure during this personal trial demonstrated the qualities that had made her beloved throughout Britain and the Commonwealth. Her Majesty's Lady-in-Waiting helped her prepare for bed, maintaining the same routines that had structured royal life for years. These familiar patterns provided stability during a time when everything else seemed changed by loss. The Queen's discipline and commitment to duty remained unshaken, even as she faced the loneliness of life without her constant companion. Before retiring, the Queen stood at her bedroom window looking out over the Windsor grounds where she and Philip had walked together just weeks before his death. The gardens they had planned and tended together continued to bloom, offering hope and beauty even in the midst of sorrow. Tomorrow would bring new responsibilities and challenges, but tonight she could rest knowing that her 95th year had begun with dignity, love, and the support of family who understood the weight of her burden. The next morning dawned with a sense of quiet resolution. The Queen had survived her first birthday without Prince Philip, and while the grief remained, there was also a recognition that life and duty must continue. Her 95th birthday had passed with dignity and grace, marking not just another year of her remarkable life, but also her transition into this new phase of widowhood and solitary leadership. The royal household staff noticed a subtle change in their sovereign's demeanor. While the sadness of recent loss remained evident, there was also a renewed determination to fulfill her responsibilities as monarch. The Queen had always derived strength from her sense of duty, and now that duty would help carry her through the loneliest period of her adult life. Messages from world leaders continued to arrive, many noting not just her birthday, but also expressing admiration for how she had handled the difficult period following Prince Philip's death. These communications reinforced her position as a respected figure on the global stage, someone whose personal dignity and public service had earned international regard across decades of change and challenge. The Queen spent the morning reviewing plans for upcoming royal engagements, gradually returning to the schedule of public duties that had been curtailed during Philip's illness and following his death. Her staff was careful to ensure that her return to public life would be gradual, allowing time for continued grief while fulfilling the expectations of her role as head of state. In her private office, the Queen worked on responses to some of the thousands of condolence letters that had arrived from around the world. Each message was personally read, and while she couldn't respond to all individually, she wanted to acknowledge the outpouring of support that had come from ordinary citizens whose lives had been touched by Philip's decades of public service. The Duke of Edinburgh's private secretary arrived to discuss the ongoing work of settling Philip's estate and ensuring the continuation of his various charitable patronages. The Queen was determined that her late husband's legacy of service would be preserved and honored through the organizations he had supported throughout his active public life. Prince William telephoned to check on his grandmother and to discuss upcoming family events. The future king had taken on additional responsibilities since his grandfather's death, supporting both his grandmother and father during this difficult transition. Their conversation touched on both personal concerns and the institutional challenges facing the monarchy in the years ahead. The Queen's racing manager brought updates about her horses and plans for the upcoming season. This lifelong passion had provided joy and excitement throughout her reign, and Philip had shared her enthusiasm for sport. Continuing her involvement in racing offered both continuity with happier times and something positive to anticipate in the months to come. As the afternoon arrived, the Queen took a solitary walk through the Windsor Castle grounds, following paths she had traveled countless times with Prince Philip over their years together. The spring flowers they had planted together bloomed around her, offering beauty and hope even in the midst of personal sorrow. These gardens would continue to flourish as living memorials to their shared love of nature and careful stewardship. Her Majesty's private secretary presented her with summaries of media coverage from around the world regarding her birthday. The overwhelming tone was one of respect and sympathy, recognizing both her personal loss and her continued dedication to duty. This global support reinforced the importance of her role and the affection felt for her personally across nations and cultures. The Queen spent time organizing some of Prince Philip's personal effects, carefully sorting through items that held special meaning while preparing others to be archived for historical preservation. This painful but necessary task allowed her to revisit memories while ensuring that important artifact from his life would be preserved for future generations to study and appreciate. Late in the day, she received a video call from her great-grandchildren, whose innocent chatter and excitement provided a welcome break from the weight of recent events. These youngest family members represented the future of the royal line and the continuation of the dynasty she had served so faithfully throughout her long reign. As evening approached, the Queen reflected on the strange mixture of sorrow and gratitude that had characterized her 95th birthday. While Prince Philip's absence had cast a shadow over the day, she had also been reminded of the love and support that surrounded her from family, staff, and subjects around the world. This support would sustain her through the challenges ahead. The royal standard continued to fly over Windsor Castle as night fell, symbolizing the continuity of the monarchy despite personal loss and change. The Queen had demonstrated once again the qualities that had made her beloved throughout her reign: dignity in adversity, commitment to duty above personal comfort, and grace under pressure that had become her trademark throughout decades of service. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and responsibilities, but tonight the Queen could rest knowing that she had navigated this significant milestone with the same strength and composure that had characterized her entire adult life. Her 95th birthday had passed quietly, but meaningfully, marking another year of service while honoring the memory of the man who had stood beside her through nearly 3/4 of a century of shared dedication to duty and love.